Okay.
Hi, Wilson.
Hey, Bishop. We actually last spoke 5 years ago in New York City when you were coming down to promote the TV talk show.
Oh, wow. Good to see you again.
Yes, so here we go. Wilson Morales talking to TD Jakes regarding the two films they're going to air on Lifetime, Lust, a Seven Deadly Sin, as well as Envy, a Seven Deadly Sin story. When did this come about? Like, you've had a relationship with Lifetime. Obviously, you've got an enormous amount of books they can always pick out. They can pick out what films they want to choose. How did these two come about?
As you know, it is hard to get a film greenlit of any kind. And so after a lot of talk and on the heels of the success of Faith Under Fire, we started talking about this actually a couple of years ago. And over a period of time, it came into fruition. And it just so happened that the relationship has gotten richer. But in this business, you build a great relationship with somebody and then you come back again and they're working for somebody else and you got to start over again. And so we had a little bit of that. And we finally got to the point that this particular project could be greenlit. And it's kind of a project where I have the relationship, but the book was written by a woman of color. It was directed by a woman of color. It's kind of like a for us, by us sort of thing. And I think I think the film benefited by having authentic Black voices in it, on it, acting it out and negotiating it.
As a producer of both of these movies, was it your call to have the person write and direct to be of color?
It's always my call who I want to be involved with. And it's my deal and my relationship. And I have done films, don't get me wrong, that were written by white writers. There's nothing wrong with that. But I recognize I have a responsibility whenever possible to lift up people of color because it is so hard for us to get into doors. And besides, the content was great. The book is great. The story, who doesn't deal with lust and envy? So it's a general message. It's not just a faith-based message. It's not just like faith-based people don't deal with lust and envy, or everybody doesn't deal with it. Everybody does.
Now, is there anything different for anybody who's read the book that they're going to see in the movie? Obviously, we all know that they take liberties, to make it sensational for TV. Did you have a hand in as far as what you wanted to be shown, or if they wanted to take any liberties?
Well, I think the book is much more detailed than the movie could afford to be, and so yes, we can't really within budget produce the whole story. So I encourage people to go back and read the book so that they'll get a perspective on it. But the narrative that we chose to excerpt from the book and put to script is a good reflection of the book. And I also think it's a good reflection of humanity.
Mm-hmm. Now, in regards to each movie, what is it you're looking for the audience to get out of it? Obviously, look at the trailer and you look at the cast and it's like, okay, I'm interested, and then they say, oh, it's a TD Jakes product. It's like, is it going to be different than some other movie we've seen before? What do you want the overall effect after the movie's over?
This might interest you. Of course, it's a cautionary tale. And you want people to be on alert against bad choices. But bigger than that, it is also an opportunity to show that that you don't have to be a bad person to make a bad choice, and to make the character believable enough that you can understand how they ended up where they were. In a society that's always willing to talk about what you did and never willing to talk about why you did it, I wanted to bring out the why, not just the what, and the underlying causes that cause people to do the things that end up being writable.
Mm-hmm. The movies are done because of the books, and then you go to the books, and you've done books over and over for a long time. What goes into what you want to write and when you want to write it?
For me, because I don't do a lot of novels and things like that, I write along with living. And so my life's experiences control my pen. And when I've seen enough and experienced enough that I think I have something important enough to say, to go through all of the gymnastics you go through to get a book written, then I actually sit down and start writing about it. Otherwise, I'll take a shortcut and just do a sermon or a conversation or talk about it. But there are a lot of things that I would talk about that don't become worthy of a book. For it to be something that you put down to pen and commit to thousands of words, it has to be something that you're pretty passionate about.
Now you think about it, between everything you've done, and then and I say always go back to the book. When do you find time, to write the book? Authors always need a certain solitude, that place where they can just go and write, and not focus on a lot of things. You are a busy man, so like, when do you find the time to just like, let me just concentrate on this? Or is it like, do you work on it and come back to it and so forth?
Well, you work on it and come back to it until you you forget that you repeated yourself, and then the editor comes back and scratches it all up, and you've got somebody helping you to sort through what you've already said, and what needs to be explained more fully. It's almost like having a baby. It's a team process to really get it done. But the idea and the creativity and the points are always my own. And what I try to do is, I have to write all the time anyway, whether it's sermons, whether it's preparing for an interview, whether it's a proposal or pitch deck for a real estate project. I'm always trying to get my head to come through my hands in terms of pecking. And I don't type well. I type fast, but I don't type well. So my wife says it sounds like cattle are coming when I'm typing on the computer, because my fingers are so big. But in my own crude way, it's therapeutic. It's therapeutic to get my thoughts out of my head, either verbally or written. It's kind of therapeutic for me.
Now, these two movies are going to air on Lifetime, but you've had some films that have been in theaters in the past. Obviously, the pandemic has changed the scope of what movies are going to be played in theaters or not. If we had not had a pandemic, but even with the pandemic now, do you still think about having any of your projects on the big screen?
I would love to, believing and assuming and hoping and praying that this pandemic passes away. I think that there's still going to be a place for the big screen to some degree. That strength of it has been diluted by technology, because now the big screen might be the little screen on your phone, through various companies that are able to do Netflix, so forth and so on. Any way you can get art out through whatever vehicle becomes the most popular, I want to keep on talking to my generation as long as I'm living. And my generation, not just the boomers, but my era, and until I'm gone. I want to keep learning and living and thinking and talking and watching, and the best teachers are students. And so I'm always learning, and I'm always watching, and I'm always trying to figure out things that are not so obvious to the broader audience who moves quickly and makes snap judgments. I like to really pontificate and labor over it a little bit more and try to get down to the heart of human behavior.
When you're not promoting these films or a new book, or anywhere else, when you're working, how do you stay humble? Obviously we're living in a world where you have to be careful with everything you do, because you never know with social media, if you do something that's outside of what people know you for, you never know what kind of criticism you're going to get. How do you stay true to yourself and be humble when you're not working?
One, you can never avoid criticism, except to be anonymous. If they know you, somebody's going to talk about you, and you got to be okay with that, or just go sit down somewhere and be quiet. And then, so far as humility is concerned, I know me, and you know, I'm not a personality. I'm a guy. I'm a person. I grew up in the hills of West Virginia. My father taught me how to mop and strip floors and wax them as a 10-year-old. I used to work for Union Carbide. I got laid off, lost my job. We were on food stamps for a while. I can make biscuits. I fry chicken. I eat oxtail. I'm a person. You know, and if you're not careful, people will take your personhood away and turn you into this unrecognizable caricature of who you really are, and then they'll kill what they created. I'm not a superstar or a super preacher or a super anything. I'm the child of a black woman from Alabama and a black man from Mississippi who got together and moved to West Virginia and had a baby look like me. And, and I never lose sight of that. And not only do I not lose sight of it, I'm kind of proud of it. I'm kind of proud of the fact that I cook neck bones. I'm kind of proud of the fact of my history and my ancestry. If you come to my house, it's decorated with ancestry all the way back to Africa, because I am standing on the shoulders of all of the people who came before me. And I don't need to be arrogant to like myself. I don't need to be condescending to you to appreciate who I am and celebrate you as well. Some people struggle with that. That's just not one of the things that I struggle with, at least not consciously.
Mr. Jakes, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Obviously, at some point or another, we'll see each other again, wherever you're at. Stay safe. Take care.
Take care and thank you. I enjoyed it.